Hey everybody, I'm Jesse and welcome to another edition of Gen X Thinks. And today we have a user-inspired edition. I'd like to thank Animal544 for contributing the inspiration for this video. And it's about an experiment that happened back in, I think it was between 1968 and 71 or 72. A guy named John Calhoun created this mouse Utopia and just let them breed and see what happened if they were allowed to just propagate with all of the necessities provided for them, all of their food, clean bedding, clean water, everything that they needed to just be comfortable and live, and then observe their behavior there. And it was actually an experiment on overpopulation. That was kind of to determine what may happen if humans overpopulated the planet Earth. And it's really interesting when you read about it and find out what happened. And at first, everything went fine, of course. But after a couple generations, the males kind of split in half, not necessarily 50-50, but they split into two different groups. They became hyper aggressive, and they would battle, they would fight, and they would have these brawls all the way across the enclosure there, right? And they would last for a long time, and they would just be all these mice fighting each other, and it would cause chaos through the rest of the colony. Now, the other males were hyper-feminized, and they would go and hide and just preen and clean themselves. They wanted no part of reproduction. They wanted no part of the fighting, none of that. They just secluded themselves and took care of their cosmetic beauty. John Calhoun called them the beautiful ones. Now, because of all this social weirdness and chaos, the female mice started losing their pregnancies early, and they would abandon their young. Even after they gave birth, they would abandon their young. It started out as like, they would lose a couple of them, but then it got more and more to where they would just abandon the entire litter, and the litter would die. Now, the peak population was a little over 2,200 mice in this Utopia experiment. It rose from, I think it was 4 females and 4 males. And from there it went up to, from 8 total, it went up to 2,200. And after that peak, it declined very rapidly down to 0. They went extinct. All on their own, no interference from outside, all the food and water they needed, all of the clean bedding, there were no diseases, nothing like that. It was purely social. This population decline and destruction was created by the mice themselves. It wasn't an outside experience, you know what I mean? No outside intervention, disease, anything like that. And all the stuff I read about that experiment and everything that people took from it, it all centers on population, right? Overpopulation. Overpopulation was the reason these mice behave this way. Overpopulation. But that explanation isn't everything. It's not, you can't just say overpopulation, because they had plenty of room, they had plenty of food, and they had plenty of water. Plenty of bedding, they were completely cared for. So overpopulation, in an overpopulated scenario, you would have to have people lacking, that, resources would be depleted. There wouldn't be enough room for people. There wouldn't, there would be disease and all these other things that go with overpopulation. In this experiment, there was none of that. So what led to the decline of this mouse utopia? And my theory on it, and again, this just like any other theory, it's a theory. It's just something I'm making up out of my head. It makes sense to me, but it might be completely false. So just coming straight out of my head with what the reading I've done and the things that I've experienced in my life and other things I've read in my life, and I've touched on this before, is that the one main thing that was lacking in this mouse utopia was struggle. The mice no longer needed to worry about predators. By like the second or third generation in this utopia, these mice, they had absolutely no idea what a predator was anymore. They never looked at the sky and had to worry about a hawk or anything like that. So that stress was completely removed out of their lives. The stress for looking for food, right? Foraging, going out and finding food. They didn't have to do that. That stress was completely gone from their lives. The third generation mice did not even know that could be a thing. Okay, that you might actually have to go search for your food. They didn't know that. They didn't know that you might actually have to go search for your water. They didn't know that. Maybe, search for the bedding and all this stuff and build a nest and all. They had no clue about any of that stuff that normal mice do in the wild. So these struggles and this idea of that we're here to struggle and to suffer really comes to light when you see an experiment like this, okay? And this entire left-wing liberal idea of that's what they want for humanity. That's what they're pushing for, is like this mouse utopia for people. Basic universal income. They just, money just appears in your account. You don't have to go earn it or get it or anything. It's just there. And, probably there's a slot in your wall somewhere where food just pops out of it. And, the government just pays for your health care. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about, where your water is coming from. It just comes out of a spout in your room. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. All you have to do is lay there and, play a video game or, scroll through Twitter and TikTok and stuff all day, every day. That's all you do. You don't have to get a job. You don't have no stress at all. Just utopia. Now, we are way above mice in our consciousness, our thinking, and stuff like this. But still, I think the same rules apply, basically. It would take a lot longer for us to go completely extinct, and I honestly don't even know if that's possible. That's a question in my mind, whether it's even possible for humans to go extinct. I question that. But this idea from the left, from the liberals, that they're pushing for this utopia, we're talking about possibly the downfall of society and humanity if we actually reach it, if we attain that goal, if they're allowed to attain that goal, right? No more struggles, no more growth. Now, I am going to assume that y'all, like me, have grown, and you are the person you are today because of the struggles and the strife and the pain and the bad decisions you've made and everything that you've gone through in your life. And I personally like who I am today. I like the person I am today. I'm fairly happy with myself. I'm I think I try to be a good person, and I've learned from my mistakes, learned from hurting other people and being hurt and doing all these wrongs and having wrongs done to me and gone through all this stuff and all this strife and all this stress and everything. And I've grown. I mean, I just, when I was younger, I couldn't imagine possibly how much I have changed. I'm like a completely different person than I was when I was 19, 20 years old. Looking back, it's like I was a different person back then. I have changed so much, and I credit all of those struggles and all of that pain to that change. Because if I had just been sitting in a room to play video games for the next 30 years when I was 20, there would have been no evolution in my mind, in my soul. I would have been stagnant, and at the very least, if I wouldn't have gone like weird, insane like those mice did. So I see this search for utopia and this thing where people want to look outside and get their happiness from the external world. They want their happiness just given to them by the government. They want their happiness given to them by another person. Like someone else is responsible for my happiness. Right? And if I could just get them to realize it and do the right thing, then I could be happy. If they would just change and do the right thing, then I could be happy. If they would just give me a universal basic income and, free health care and all this, whatever else, then I could be happy. And I just know that even though, let's just say we did an experiment and gave those kind of people everything they asked for, they would still be miserable. Maybe even more so then, because they would realize how disillusioned they were by asking for all this stuff. Because there's no gratification in getting it. There's no, sense of accomplishment when you get your universal basic income. There's no, I did that. I worked hard for that. I earned that. That's a good feeling. So there are no good feelings in this utopia. There's just stagnation and decline. Another thing that Animal brought up was that Disney movie, The Secret of Nim. That Disney movie was based on that experiment, and it's kind of a dark subject to be making a Disney movie out of. And he's absolutely right. But we've all heard the conspiracy theories about Disney, and you've probably seen all the hidden messages in their cartoons and their commercials and stuff, and how they're secretly doing all this stuff. And yeah, I tend to believe that they've got some evil stuff going on over there. That whole Nickelodeon thing, I don't know if y'all have watched it, but that Nickelodeon was just steeped in child abuse back in the day when Nickelodeon was a big thing. But I watched a documentary on that, and that's actually kind of hard to watch, that one. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if Disney was into some darker things. And it doesn't surprise me that they would make a movie on dark subject matter like that, right? Yeah, I believe there's a lot of subliminal messaging, and not only in Disney, but in all of these movies and cartoons and everything we watch. I believe we're being brainwashed. I don't have a lot of proof of it, but I believe it because I was brainwashed, and it took decades to realize that. I'm not even to the point where I can say I'm not brainwashed anymore, because I know I'm still brainwashed. But at least I'm aware enough now to question some of the things that I just believe with a knee-jerk reaction. I question them. I ask, why is that my first thought? Why am I rejecting that just out of hand without any thought into it? Not not necessarily research, because, and I get a lot of this in the comments and stuff. You need to do your research. Yeah, okay, I could do some research and read some stuff that somebody else wrote about something that they read that somebody else wrote, and it could all be bullshit. So we could all go out and read contradicting things that somebody else wrote about the same subject, and then argue that, you know, that so-and-so says this and so-and-so says this, and it's all bullshit as far as we know. There is, the only thing I honestly really know is the stuff that I learned myself with my own two hands. I know for a fact that a hammer claw does not make a good screwdriver, because I've tried it, because it's the only thing I had on hand and I wanted to get it done right now, and so I tried it, and you know, it doesn't really work that well. I know this. But as far as Elon Musk being a super patriot or a Nazi or a Zionist, I've heard them all. And I don't know if any of them are true. I hope that he's a patriot. I really do. But only time is going to tell. That's just a fact. That's just the way it is. Time will tell whether Elon Musk is a real patriot or whether he's a Nazi or a Zionist or whatever. So arguing about it now is just a waste of my time. I just support the things he's doing, or I question the things he's doing. That's all I can do. If he does something I like, I support it. If he does something I don't like, I question it. And I've done both on this channel. I've questioned when he implemented that social credit score on his X platform. I don't like it. I don't support it. I quit. I was a subscriber. I was a paid subscriber on X. I quit. That doesn't mean that I despise everything he does, but I can't support with my dollar the decisions he makes that I don't agree with. I can't. So I stopped. But the things he does that I do agree with, I will support. And only time will tell. Only history is going to tell whether he is a good person or a bad person, because we don't know right now. So all this stuff about doing research and all this, okay, I get it. But when I research this stuff, unless it's just a factual recording like this on this experiment, this John Calhoun experiment, they just factually recorded what he did and his findings and the things that happened. Now, I've read from 3 or 4 different accounts of his experiments, and they all say the same thing. So I'm going to pretty much believe that's a factual account. It's just what happened. But as far as people's opinions of his experiment and all that, when they go into the overpopulation and how that reflects on humans and overpopulation and all that, that's all just bullshit. As bullshit as mine, as my theory, as my opinion on how it reflects on humans and all that stuff. The only thing is, some of those people have a PhD in front of their name, so people take their opinions as, you know, as if they were blasted from the sky on a lightning bolt, and I'm a handyman, so my opinion ain't shit. So, you know, but we got to think. We just have to use our brains and think about this stuff and come to logical, common sense conclusions. All right? And in my conclusion on this experiment and what I see happening in the society of Western civilization is that this push toward a utopian one world government and universal basic income and all this stuff, it's just not good for humanity. We need nationalism, we need patriotism, and we need to struggle against other countries in order to stay strong and to keep progressing as humanity. If we all just turn into one big vanilla people with no no resistance to our ideas. Every stupid thing that comes out of our mouth, everybody just applauds it, and we're all saying the same thing and eating the same thing and reading and watching the same thing. Can you imagine that world? But that's the world they want. That's not my world. That's not the world I want. I want to struggle. I'm not an idiot. I'm not sitting here saying, we gotta, oh, that's great. I'm so happy that my transmission went out. Yay, I get to grow. You know what I mean? That's so awesome. I got cancer. Hell yeah, I got cancer. I'm not talking about being a psychopathic idiot like that. I'm just talking about when we look back and see the growth that has come through our struggles and our strifes, would we choose to continue to struggle or just live this vanilla existence, this boring vanilla existence until we die? I would choose to struggle. I choose the hard road because I know that the hard road leads to growth. And that's why I believe that I am here on this planet, to grow and to learn and to evolve in every sense of that word, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. And that's what I believe. So I believe struggle and strife, they're painful, they hurt, but they're necessary. And that's why we're here. And I'll leave you there with that. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and comment. If you'd like to support the channel by becoming a member, I'll put that link down in the description, or you can head over to the channel page and become a member that way. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can do so by clicking on that super thanks button down there. Or you can head over to Buy Me a Cup of Coffee and buy me a cup of coffee. I appreciate those of you who do that. I'll leave that link down in the description as well. If you're interested in Gen X gear, we got some pretty cool stuff over there at Redbubble, Gen X Thinks and Gen X branded stuff. I'll leave that link down in the description too. If you can't or don't want to support the channel in any of those ways, you can always do so by sharing these videos on your social media. That helps out a lot. Thank you very much to those of you who do that. I sincerely appreciate it. If you have any ideas for future episodes of Gen X Things, please put those down in the comments. Or you can email us, and the email is genxthinks@gmail.com. And as always, stay frosty, Gen X, and I'll see you on the next one.